new, welcome. Oh, 1 second. The noises I make as I grow older. Oh my god. Anyways, alright, so this is Dan. This is Dango, guys. Welcome. For those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. And for those of you that support me over on Patreon, thank you so very, very much. I greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can go over to patreon.com and look up Angle Guys. Choose a subscription level, and you get special readings over there that are only available over there. You also get the daily forecast that I do on my YouTube channel every day over there a day early. And you can sort all that out. Direct any questions that you may have to the Facebook business page. And this is your monthly Tarotscope for the sign of Gemini. So anybody with a sun, moon, or rising in the sign of Gemini, this is going to be a broad spectrum reading applying to you and your month of November, what you may be expecting or what may come to pass during the month. If any of it doesn't make sense or doesn't resonate, that's totally fine. Don't worry. It doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong. It just means you might be working on something different. If stuff does make sense and you can apply it to your life, please feel free to utilize it in the best way possible. Always trust your own intuition over anything that I have to say, just as a rule of thumb. But this is just to help give guidance and a little bit of, thought, maybe validation, and hopefully some hope for the month of November for the Geminis. If you are cross-watching, say you're, enamored with a Gemini and you're watching on their behalf, that's totally fine too. I greatly appreciate all cross-watchers. And if you know of any Geminis that can utilize this video, please feel free to share it out wherever you like. And let's get into the reading. So, the first card for the air signs is what I started doing in the 2020 readings, because 2020 was such a batshit crazy year, is I started doing these signifier cards just as sort of like a guide for an overall view of what's going on during the month. So for this month, I chose these kind of other side, otherworldly decks. And for this element, the air element, for the signs of Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, I decided to use the Talking to Heaven mediumship cards because heaven, air, element, it just seemed to make sense. So this is going to be sort of either your signifier, your guide, something to reflect upon during the month of November for the Geminis. And if y'all start talking to spirit this month, don't be surprised and don't blame me. That's all I'm saying. Hi, Anne-Marie. How are you? Let's see here. One more shuffle. Okay. Okay. This reminds me of a video I posted on my personal page of these people at a Flaming Lips concert, and they were all in little bubbles. It says, "We are so connected." I kind of like this because each little bubble, even though it's its own separate individual self, it's also connected to the greater whole, right? So when we think about this from the terminology of spirit, and we see that we have our individual perspective, but we also have our bigger, more connected perspective. We're all in this sort of same boat. And that might be sort of the theme for what Gemini is to focus on this month. We'll look at the cards in the tarot to see why the focus is on this connection. I would look at this, and what it's making me think of is the similarities rather than the differences, even though each individual bubble is its own sort of entity, right? They all are very similar in their patterns and shape and all of that. So it's like finding our common ground with our fellow man in whatever way, shape, or form. So if there's situations this month that challenge us, or, they don't even have to challenge us in a bad way. It could be something that is actually a good challenge. Finding the similarities, or where we connect, where we relate, where we bond would be ideal for the Geminis, I think. And I also think that that's sort of going to lead you guys to some sort of insight by a month's end. That's this light that we have back here. To me, focusing on that connection may bring insight or awareness that the Geminis didn't necessarily have coming into the month. Does that make sense? Like, it's a fresher, better perspective towards the end. So let's see, what does Gemini Sun, Moon, and Rising need to know for November of 2020? All right, so this first card is where your guys are centered at for the month of November. It's not necessarily where you'll be the whole entire month of November, but just you'll be going in and out of this energy throughout the month, and it will kind of be your focal point. It will also give me a little insight into what you could potentially be creating for the month or for the future. So this is the Eight of Wands. So I like this card because it's your complementary energy of fire, which is also the suit of wands. The Eight of Wands can always be sort of incoming messages, and it's interesting because this is sort of a spiritual card about mediumship, and I said if you guys are talking to spirits, don't blame me. Eight of Wands is about the wands being the element of fire and also the element of spirit. This could be messages for my Geminis from spirit or from the other side, from their higher selves. It can also represent moving. It's usually a fast-moving energy, the Eight of Wands. And it's sort of about, like, I think eights are about bringing about balance. So if we have to make any choices or changes throughout this month to bring about a better sense of balance or to position ourselves into a way that is more informed or in a, more established, kind of in line with who we are, I think that that's going to be a good thing. And I think that that's going to be a focus for you guys for the month of November. I get a really sort of positive vibe from this Eight of Wands. Like, my Geminis will probably feel like they have a lot of energy, a lot of attention to detail, a lot of focus. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. I would get that more with the Swords card, but for some reason this Eight, the speed and the sort of, I don't know, I just feel like my Geminis are going to be very attentive to what's going on, paying attention to the small details, and making sure that everything sort of gets taken care of as they move forward. There could be travel for some of you too. The Eight of Wands can also represent as a travel card. So if some of you are moving, say maybe homes, or beginning to travel again, or finding yourselves going on journeys, like actual physical movement journeys, don't be surprised, because that may be a focus for some of you. If some of your careers, maybe you're required to get back on planes this month, that would be this card. So let's look at the foundation card and see what's going on in the foundation. This card represents from the past as to what we maybe dealt with in the past, and the memory of that. It can sometimes be what is holding everything in the cards as we see them, right? It's holding everything in place, the memory of this card. Or it can also be sort of sometimes the impetus for what drives everything in the present moment forward. So this is the Five of Pentacles. Okay. So this is kind of, to me, financial struggle. Fives usually represent change, the opportunity for change. This being in the past, there may have been some financial issues that my Geminis have been facing. I kind of feel like with this Eight of Wands, it feels like we might be departing away from that. There's a real sort of, like I said, there's a direction in the Eight of Wands that I feel. There's an attention to detail. These are the words, like every time I look at those eight wands lined up, it's like Gemini is dotting their I's and crossing their T's at this point. That maybe wasn't necessarily the case in the last few months with this Five of Pentacles. The Five of Pentacles feels like there might have been a struggle. We were getting by. We were making do with what we had. It's not the most horrible of experiences, but it isn't the best either. It's not really what the Gemini necessarily wants. When I look at the Eight of Wands, to me, you guys feel assertive, inspired, and like I said, energized to sort of take on the task, right? Make the movement happen, taking the action to make things move forward at this point in time. If that's also through new information that comes to you, great, right? If we get some, maybe some new contacts or connections, ideas, whatever that is, take that stuff and run with it this month. That's sort of the feeling I get. The Five of Pentacles isn't necessarily, like, I feel like it's a bit of a meager card in the sense that we've come from meager beginnings in a way, or a meager past. Don't let that necessarily, the Eight of Wands feels more powerful in a sense. I don't necessarily feel as though you guys are going to let this Five of Wands hold you back, or the Five of Pentacles hold you back. But also don't let that struggle or strife dictate to you what you can and cannot get accomplished, because the Eight of Wands speaks to this idea that you can get so much done this month. Is kind of my feeling. You might actually find yourself a little tired by the end of the month. So the next card is the Higher Self or Soul card. This is above you. It kind of tells me what your higher self, or where it's kind of coming in at, what it wants you to look at and focus on. Okay, so this is the Five of Swords. Five of Swords can tend to be kind of like competition energy. when I look at these two, they're kind of having this conversation, and there's this bit of a back and forth happening with the swords. One of them is getting ready to depart. It's interesting that you have a five above you and a five below you. These, like I said, five represents change. I feel like, and swords is the element of air, which is the Gemini's element, right? Let me just look at this for a moment. I kind of feel like what this is saying to me is that there's something that needs to be adjusted. In a more literal sense, the Five of Swords would be something maybe mentally that needs to be adjusted. Something that maybe conflicts with what it is that we want to do and how it is that we want to be. And that's sort of the Five of Pentacles, right? I almost feel like with my Geminis, as I'm looking at these two fives, it feels like in the past maybe we've suffered some struggles, some resistance, some things that we've had to come up against. And with this Five of Swords in the higher self space, to me it speaks to this idea that the Five of Swords, this higher self, wants us to deal with where do we limit our thoughts? Where do we like where in our thoughts are we sort of limiting ourselves? Does that make sense? Because I feel like we've come through this Five of Pentacles energy in the past. We don't want to go back there. I don't feel that we will, but it does feel like this kind of struggle. And the Eight of Wands in the center feels so much more opportune, possible, and I'm tying this all back to this sort of we are so connected. It almost feels like if Gemini has felt out of whack in the last few months leading up, now is the time to kind of line ourselves back up. That's the Eight of Wands energy also in the center, is this idea of really focusing our intention, our spirit, our goals, our actions with what it is that we want. And the Five of Swords speaks to this idea that our higher self is going, okay, Gemini, where is it that you outthink yourself? Because, I mean, let's face it, you guys are the twins, right? You have probably multitudes of ideas and thoughts and patterns and stuff that kind of you're dealing with constantly, similar to like me as a Pisces, we're the other duality of the zodiac, right? So we can have a multitude of voices going on, right? Of, you know, ideas and opinions and thoughts of how we should or shouldn't do something, and it gets confusing at times. And so that would be the Five of Swords up above. To me, it feels like, where do we maybe confuse the issue, or where do we maybe like get in our own way? And we no longer want to do that. I feel like with this Eight of Wands in the center, we're moving forward, where this is an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap and open the door to move forward. And so to do that, and to do that in a really right and possible way, we want to sort of maybe clear out the mind or any sort of limiting beliefs that don't necessarily serve us anymore, okay? Because it might be those thoughts that are I don't want to say that it's blocking us. I just feel like our spirit wants us to be aware of them and sort of stop like returning to them or allowing them to be in competition with sort of the opportunities that come through this Eight of Wands. Does that make sense? All right, so let me look at the outside influences. These are two influences that are coming from the outside towards us during the month of November. They can either be positive or negative. They can represent as people, sometimes events, sometimes things more vague like belief systems or energies that could be affecting us during the month of November. Okay, so we have the Queen of Swords, totally Geminian energy. Queens are cups upon swords, so we've got emotions and then we've got intellect, right? The Queen of Swords is usually a very decisive thinker. She's clear, clean, concise. She can be a little bit sort of what's the word I want to use, like unrelenting in some ways. She's very much a logic over anything else, right? She's going to be somebody that this could represent as another air sign that's in your life. This could also just represent as situations where you're required to be practical, logical, utilize your intelligence. And I feel like this Queen of Swords, the way that she's facing towards the future, I feel like this is something that will carry us into the future. This this situation, this person, whatever this may be for you, right? This Queen of Swords opportunity, it's going to appreciate your natural Geminian, is that even a word? Geminian tendencies to want to think things through, but we don't want to slip into that Five of Swords confusion that is being pointed out in the higher self realm. We want to take the fieriness and the action of the Eight of Wands and we want to move quickly. We also want to trust ourselves. The Queen of Swords feels like she's teaching us to trust ourselves and our thoughts as she moves us forward. So this may be split second decisions where we need to think on our toes in the month of November. Like I said, the energy of the Eight of Wands will enable us to do so. The Queen of Swords wants to support us, but we have to be clear and concise, right? We want to like the mental picture I'm getting in my mind's eye is sort of like where she places her feet, we need to follow like in her shadow and like put our feet in the exact same places, like follow her lead, follow the lead of our high intellect, Gemini. And these situations, like I said, they may come at you quickly, require split-second decisions, but as you like think clearly and just move with it, move with it, move with it is sort of the feeling I'm getting. You will be rewarded by this Queen of Swords. She will take you into the future in a positive manner. I get a good vibe from her, but she sort of wants like no fear is kind of the feeling that I get. No regret, no shame, none of that. She wants clear, concise, boom, boom, boom kind of thing. So the challenge for the Geminis, or what I feel like the challenge here is these five energies above and below you are sort of these ideas of maybe been in an effort to keep yourself safe, or in due to experiences that you maybe experienced in the past where you've had to struggle, right? In efforts to keep yourself safe, you've maybe outthunk yourself in a certain uh, uh, situations or scenarios. The Queen of Swords wants us to not do that, right? She wants us to just like be empowered by who we are, right? And that's what I feel like she's here to teach the Geminis in the month of November. Now, the next card is Temperance, the sign of Sagittarius, which is also fire energy. Sagittarius is also very expansive, associated with the planet of Jupiter, and can be very beneficial, right? Temperance is about finding that sort of balance, right? And again, we see that balance in the Eight of Wands in the center. It's this goal of wanting to move ourselves forward, wanting to sort of challenge and change things. We want that forward movement. We want that forward momentum. But we almost, like, I feel like the temperance thing is about there's opportunities here if we see them, if we, how do I want to put it? Like when I look at temperance and I think about it being associated with Jupiter and expansion and also this fiery energy that's in tune with this Eight of Wands in the center, there's opportunities for us here to be smart, logical, methodical. That's the temperance energy, the methodicalness, right? The sort of keeping things in balance as we move forward. If we keep that balance amongst ourselves, I feel like the payoff is really big. And if we stay logical while keeping that and maintaining that balance in the center as we move forward, the Queen is going to reward us, right? We have fire and air on either side of us as outside influences. They are complementary not only to the sign of Gemini, but they're also complementary to one another. They will work together quite well, right? So this speaks to this idea that the outside influences for the Geminis are very positive to me, as long as we receive them in a way that's sort of positive. That's the Five of Swords and the Five of Pentacles. It's this idea that although things haven't been horrible, like have we lost faith, or have we, you know, what's the word? How do I want to put this? It just kind of feels like the challenge for the month is to not like revert to the experiences or the thoughts of the past, to stay as inspired by the now as much as possible and allow that to kind of propel you forward And as you do that, there's really opportunities to not only maintain balance and really have blessings bestowed upon you through that temperance card, but there's also opportunities to really make clear, concise decisions through the Queen of Swords in situations that will also take you into the future in a really powerful and strong kind of way. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense for you guys. It's about sort of, to me, not getting in our own way through letting old, outdated thoughts, fears, or worries or experiences of the past affect our opportunity right now to create. Because when I'm looking at this, normally when I look at these readings, I'm always kind of looking at these three, right, as like you, right? But really what I see the opportunity here is these three working together. These three feel way more in sync than these three do, right? Because we have an air, a wand, and an earth, right? And we have these two fives, which is all about sort of the changes maybe we've been through or the changes we need to make, right? But what I like about this is we've got air, fire, fire, and we've got a major arcana and a court as our outside influences. So to me, this says Gemini at their center in the month of November is more connected to what's going on around them, in the world around them, and needs to find that connection, seek that connection out, and find those similarities and work within them, because there's big benefit in it for my Geminis. If we go back to sort of the past or to sort of the troubles of our mind in a way, and we start to pick through things that way, we may only find disconnection or reasons why we're not connecting. And that's what we want to not do, because it speaks to this idea that this connection through this Temperance card and this Queen of Swords is far more beneficial than staying like sort of in maybe a rut that we've been experiencing for the last, say like maybe this last year. And that might all be due to just the sort of the global stuff that's going on, the frustration around the global stuff that's going on. Is that permeating us in other areas of our life? It's kind of something that makes me think about that. So, okay. The next card is the potential outcomes card. So this card is where the Geminis will potentially end out at the end of the month. It is not set in stone. If it's a negative card, we can use this as a warning to make choices and changes through free will to affect the outcome, and something different may come to pass. But right now, this gives us insight into what's coming naturally, barring that nothing major changes. So the good thing is if this is a great card, we can utilize it and just allow it to sort of come into being. And if it's a negative card, we want to use it as a warning. Oh, this is beautiful. So this is the Star card. So this is also air energy. I believe this is associated with the sign of Aquarius. So the Star to me is all about wishes granted. It's about that quiet knowledge and that awareness. And if we look at the angel that we see in Temperance, right, where she's doing this balancing act, where we may not get everything we want right away, but it's coming, and we have to trust that. And as long as we're logical, clear, concise, clearly see the future and use logical steps to get there, which Gemini will be able to do, we can arrive at the beauty of the Star card, where we sort of own exactly who we are, we know our power, we know what we're able to create. There's this quiet sort of confidence with the Star that I love, right? She's sort of like that opportunity to have everything sort of mellow out after, say, a tower moment. This Five of Pentacles is not necessarily a tower moment, but it's like a materially challenged period that we went through that maybe affected us mentally, or our ability to say trust or believe, right? In maybe the world around us or the environment around us, and that it's going to provide for us. We've still made do, Gemini, right? We've still worked on it and muddled through, but we don't want to allow that to continue to be our like sort of reality. The Eight of Wands delivers us away from that if we allow ourselves to, and that's why I'm seeing the pattern going more this direction, like embracing your outside influences this month and really allowing them to sort of channel you forward, because they're going to bring you to this sense of the Star, which is this much more calm, complete, sedate in a way, but in a really beautiful, peaceful sort of way. There's a sense of peace by month's end for my Geminis that you guys are seeking. And I think that you're going to be, extremely grateful for. You just have to trust that it's coming, and trust sort of like the environment around you versus maybe the experiences that you've had up until this point and the thoughts that have maybe brought you those experiences. That's the feeling that I'm getting from this reading. I hope that makes sense, you guys. That is your November forecast. It looks to be like a really opportune month for you as long as you allow it to be, is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And remember that you are connected to the greater whole. And that's this light that we see, the star, right? This is this light that comes towards the month's end, which I said, the star is that light. You will be that star at the end. You will be that sort of clarity, peacefulness, shining bright, knowing all of that sort of stuff by month's end, barring that you trust where sort of the elements or the environment wants to take you, and keeping that in balance and moving forward in that, being clear and logical as you do so. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and come watch the daily forecast with me every day, and I will see you guys next month. All right, thank you so much and take care. Bye-bye.